website and also the playlist on our YouTube channel that we have entitled Deborah Tavares. Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Vernoon here with Israeli News Live, joined with our very special guest, Deborah Tavares with StopTheCrime.net. Today is June the 7th, 2025, and Deborah is going to be sharing a very serious matter, something that you really need to be taking to heart, pay close attention to.
I'm not stealing content. I am reusing it.
Discussing here in the past week. Deborah, welcome to the broadcast of this disclosure that we're sharing with people
Looking
today.
for live commentary.
Thank you, Steve, so much.
Any outside opinions.
We're going to be discussing
and even gang stalker
three
thoughts.
different topics tonight. We're going to be spending the majority of the discussion on the document entitled The National Blueprint for Biodefense. And it says immediate action needed to defend against biological threats. And this is a report from the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense of April of 2024. So if you would share that cover, if you have that.
It is there. It is there.
People know how they get to this document.
Yes, if you go to Deborah's website, stopthecrime.net, enter the website, and as soon as you do, on the top right-hand corner, you'll have a search tab. Type in the National Blueprint for Biodefense. It's going to take you right directly to this on Deborah's website, stopthecrime.net. I'll have a link in the description below. I'll even put a direct link where it'll take you directly to this document. It's about 180 pages, somewhere around there, document, but very, very informative.
Yeah, it's a very important document. Everyone needs to know the preparation in advance of the bioweapon attack that we're all going to face. And they're announcing that this is going to occur on the 4th of July of 2025. And there
Which is just bizarre.
170 pages in this document.
Because this just
now,
came
we're going
up.
to start in the endnotes.
This just came up. I just saw this my first time. I've already watched about 20 minutes of it, and I'm replaying that. But during my, this July 4th thing, during the time that I've been, how do you want to say, searching Black Op communications. I don't know if that's proper terminology, but yeah. So, yeah, these guys, anyways, you'll learn. I learned a lot. You'll learn a lot if you ever, I don't know, endure what I've endured. Anyways, so it had me digging down those rabbit holes, and then I came into Dawn, and I already knew a Dawn, so that was all bizarre. So, yeah. Anyways, all that bizarreness. And July 4th, a brother of mine posted about July 4th, and I was like, oh, wow, that's weird. I said that yesterday, I believe. So, then today, Deborah Tavares, I've been following Stop the Crime for years, many. And, yeah, so the whole July 4th thing blew me. Because I was just thinking about that. I was like, all the deeds, that I had encountered during that time. And then I was like, oh, the least likely dates. And one of the least likely dates that I thought was the 4th of July. So, anyways, whatever. I ain't putting no dates on nothing. I'm just saying. The fact they put this out about the 4th of July, I'm like, oh, whoa. I wouldn't be going to no Elton John concerts. I'll say that much. In the middle of Philadelphia. Like,
I want
nope.
everybody to understand how the United States has participated in the creation and distribution and manipulation of bioweapon attacks. So on page 61, Steve, the very top of that page, it says in notes. And the third paragraph down, it says, this is not a complete excerpt of my reading of this, but it will give you the understanding. From 1973, remember that, from 1943, to 1969, the United States learned how to weaponize, distribute, combine, manipulate, and counteract many biological agents. And they list a number of biological agents in that paragraph, including the Venezuelan equine encephalitis virus and many others, as well as anti-material organisms. Then you drop down another paragraph, and it talks about germs and biological warfare and America's secret wars. And you can learn more about that on page 150 of this document. Now, Steve, I know that we talked about the they that does these things to us, but I think it's very, very important to first look at the second page of this document. So from the title page, the National Blueprint for Biodefense, if you click onto, and they're not numbered, but it will give you names of the commissioners involved in the attack on us, using these weapons on us.
Yeah, but they do.
Because
what does knowing their names have to do with anything? Because ain't nobody gonna do nothing.
The air, the water, the soil.
We gotta wait on Jesus to come back.
And all manners
And everybody
of
else
poisons
is
and
too scared or
toxins
some shit.
on
I
all
don't know.
of us in the United States and worldwide. So
Involved.
look at the names of the commissioners and understand these people were still involved. And then it goes under
They're all
acknowledgements.
involved.
And you can read the various agencies
All of
that
them.
are involved.
All of them.
And
Not
that's
various.
very in
It's all
itself,
of them.
where some names are very common to people like Tom Daschle, Frederick Upton, Susan Brooks. You know, these are congressmen, senators, etc., that are involved in this, and that's terrifying to
It
think that
is.
our elected
It's
officials
terrifying to
would
think
be
that
involved
people
in
don't
such
say nothing to
horrendous,
their officials.
actions.
Yes, and you'll see on page 2 who signed this. We're talking about Joseph Lieberman and Thomas Ridge. Now, I'm going to get into this pre-planned scenario. This is a pre-planned event, and they've already designated the number of deaths that will result from this attack.
Oh,
Again,
it's not just that
this is a
biologically.
Planned and staged
Yes,
AI
it is.
computer activated attack.
I've been warning about it for 5 or 6 years.
2024.
Come
So
on,
let me read a quote from
beyond
page
that.
10, just so you'll be
Come
clear
on, Deborah. I
as
think
to
you
what
know
you are
that
hearing
too,
going
Mama.
forward. This is from page 10. Quote, these are not just words on pages. This is a call for immediate action. And I will tell you, in this document, we have been told about the future and what will happen, because this will be orchestrated. Just like the NASA document that I presented so many years ago, that I entitled the NASA War Document. The future is now. You'll find
Yeah,
many
I
of the
remember that
same
one.
biological weapons and vectors specified in that document as well. So let's get into this, Steve, because we have little time, and I think what we're going to need to consider doing
These people
is
don't even
several,
want to listen.
really
They're like,
several
oh,
disclosures
the-
on this document.
the
So I
white
can't
man's
cover
trying to kill
everything.
me, or
And
it's always
after I
something,
go
it
through
just
this
doesn't make
document,
sense.
we're going to
They're
pull
trying to
up
kill us all.
the animal
Shit.
depopulation instruction and programs to kill off all the. And because this document talks about this bioweapon of death that is going to simultaneously kill hundreds of thousands of people along with animals.
Yeah.
So they're creating a story ahead of the attack. So let's get into this. The chair of a Congressional Joint Inquiry provided context for this report you're hearing me talk about by portraying a biological attack sufficient to cause the catastrophic consequences warned of by the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense. This describes how a biological agent could and would target humans and animals, how disease could emerge, some of the key capabilities required to address the agent and its impact, and the consequences of our failure to act and preparing for bioweapon defense. We have not failed. Our country is allowing us to be attacked. We are being flown over every day, all day, and in many places, multiple times through the night with overhead aerosol dust dumps, aka chemtrails, for geoengineering. It is dropping neck on us. It is destroying our plants and food, along with moving moisture from place to place, distributing the sludge from the wastewater treatment plants that cause PFAS. And you need to understand this. So let me stay with this document.
Whoa, wait a minute. Because I know more. I know more. Not only, she's talking about, she said moving sludge from place to place. And I'm pretty sure what she's getting at is about these biological attacks she's talking about. But I could say this because I know that the wastewater treatment.
Smooth skin. What if my father touches me?
Who changed my freaking video? I didn't touch anything. The heck? Stay out of my phone. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I know what y'all are up to. It's all good. I don't care what people think about me. I care about what God says about me, and I know He knows everything about me.
And here's where the opening to my discussion starts longer.
That's why I can get on here and be like, oh, you know what? I'm not. Don't be following me because I'm not a teacher. I'm trying to overcome.
Our lives will immediately be turned upside down. And
Our lives will immediately be turned upside down. Lord have mercy. Please go watch ClickFiles.com. Please go spend 100 hours there. Go spend 1,500. I mean, don't make it less than 100 hours. If you can only make it 10 minutes, your flesh is running you. Okay? Period. Point blank. Yeah. Because what she just said, our lives have been turned upside down since we came out of the womb. Most of us came out upside down, unless you were a breech baby or something.
If the lives are immediately and very turned upside down.
Yes.
They go on. Moreover, it is highly unlikely that a biological event will affect at least one, just one critical infrastructure. An event might affect several, if not many, factors directly, with cascading on others. Remember, the anthrax events of 2001 affected or involved 11 sectors. This is why we must prioritize.
The verbiage. Hold on. The paper says, moreover, it is highly unlikely that a biological event will affect just one critical infrastructure sector. An event might affect several, if not many, sectors directly with cascading impacts on others. Cascading, the Cascadia. Hello, the Cascadia. Look, they're talking to each other. Y'all may not think it, but that's what they're doing.
Protection of critical infrastructure.
Talking about the Cascadia.
Biological threats.
Yeah.
They are not protected.
So it ain't just a biological threat. Wait till it's going to get deeper than that. Because once they hit those faults and those locations where they got all their nuclear waste, okay. What's up with Yucca Mountain? Yeah. What's up with that location?
Wide open.
Yeah. Deborah, you're starting to cut in and out quite a bit, but luckily I'm able to highlight the document as you're reading it so people can follow along still.
Okay, thank you, Steve. As you know, I'm greatly impaired with communications these days.
Yes.
And I'm doing my very best. And I hope all of you understand that I am doing my very best to get this information out to you. So let's look at page 10, Steve.
Okay.
It goes on, replacing BioWatch with a national biological detection system that actually works. This commission has argued and continues to argue that 20 years after its implementation, the potential of BioWatch.
Dude, this is medical tyranny on steroids. This is HITLER. All of his sons and all of his daughters, like, celebrating the brilliance of their dad. I mean, like, the whole, all of it. It's like, they really planned this shit out. They did. She said, well, millions are going to die. Well, but they forgot something too. And they just said it right there in the thing. It was like, oh, the Cascadia. Oh, it's going to be cascading. Is it really going to be cascading? Hold on, let's read the terminology one more time. Let's see. It said, oh, I gotta back up one. Okay, it said, moreover, it is highly unlikely that a biological event will affect just one critical infrastructure sector. An event might affect several, if not many, sectors directly, with cascading impacts on others. Dude, they're literally... Oh my gosh, okay. You don't believe me? All right, let me read the article then. I'm coming back, Deborah. Let me read the article. These people think I'm crazy. Oh, Lord, sometimes I feel that way. Let's see. The Oregon Public Broadcasting, OPB, article by Jess Burns, May 29, 2025 at 6 in the morning. Double threat of Cascadia earthquake and sea level rise could change Pacific Northwest coast forever. By luck of geology, the Pacific Northwest coast isn't being hit nearly as hard as other areas of the world by climate change driven sea level rise, while the U.S. East Coast is expected to see roughly 11 to 16 inches of sea level rise by 2050. Under a high emission scenario, our coast will see closer to 3 to 7 inches. Now, scientists working in Oregon are adding a new wrinkle to these presumptions, showing the risk could be far greater. Much of the Oregon, Washington, and Northern California coast is slowly rising, not quickly enough to keep up with the expected sea level changes due to human caused climate change, but enough to put us on better footing than the rest of the country in the short term. The reason is largely due to the Cascadia subduction zone, a massive fault running parallel to shore about 100 miles out into the ocean. There, the Juan de Fuca plate is being pushed under the North American plate. This pressure causes our coast to buckle, pushing our coastline up out of the water. But as fortuitous as this has been in the face of climate change, it could turn unlucky at any moment. The big one, a magnitude 9.0 plus Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, could happen anytime now based on its history. An analysis out of Virginia Tech and the University of Oregon shows a dramatically different future for coastal communities when considering the effects of a Cascadia earthquake and climate driven sea level rise together. A 9 magnitude earthquake and the tsunamis that follow would devastate parts of the region. It's the lasting change to the land level itself the scientists considered in their work. The same forces that cause the coast to slowly rise over the years triggers a reversal when the subduction zone quake happens. In a matter of minutes, the tension releases and the land level drops down or subsides, likely between 1.5 and 6 feet. That's a big difference. The researchers examined what would happen at 24 different estuaries in Oregon, Washington, and California when you pair 3 different potential levels of earthquake subsidence with sea level rise due to climate change. Short answer, a lot more people would need to get flood insurance. Short answer is what they said. A lot more people would need to get flood insurance. I feel like if any of these guys were telling the truth, they'd be like, well, if it's anything like North Carolina, you know, you're probably going to want to invest in some floaties. I ain't trying to be mean or nothing, but I mean, like, you think people want to know, you know? Anyways, most of y'all can't even freaking comprehend knowing something in advance. That's the sad part. Overall, the researchers found the number of people, buildings, and other infrastructure exposed to flooding could more than triple from current levels. The scientists say their analysis shows the importance of considering sea level rise and earthquake subsidence when devising strategies to increase the resilience of coastal communities over the next century. Man, this is like the primal marketing material for cause the problem to become the solution. They've got this in the bucket. Most people don't understand. They're like, huh? What'd you just say? Okay. Duh. There's a song that goes, duh, 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 ho, 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 ho. Sometimes I feel that way when I'm talking to people. I'm like, duh. It's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. 100-foot mega tsunami could hit the U.S. at any moment, and that's only the beginning. Who wrote this one? This is out of sciencefocus.com. Danger tsunami. Tom Howarth, June 3rd, 2025 at 2:33 a.m. The Cascadia subduction zone, a massive fault line stretching from Northern California to British Columbia, has been eerily quiet for 300 years. When it finally ruptures, it's expected to trigger a colossal earthquake that could rattle the Pacific Northwest for minutes. Oh, are you guys ready? Are you ready? Because they're telling you. I'm just reverberating the it's the warning. Even worse, tsunami waves up to 100 feet high will likely crash ashore, unleashing devastation along the coast. But according to a new study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, that will only mark the beginning of Cascadia's cataclysm. Oh my gosh, now we're getting bigger. Let's see what they said. As if a wave the same size as the 2004 Boxing Day mega tsunami wasn't bad enough, the new analysis reveals that land along the coast could drop by more than 2.5 meters, which is 8 feet, in a matter of minutes. That might be why they was talking about building that train underground in California. And then they was telling everybody, like, yo, we're blowing the dump so we could save all these kids. They weren't saving no damn kids. Shit. They've had how many faces in the news? How long have people been waiting on that list? Anyhow. All right, what else nonsense does this say? We talk about climate-driven sea level rise, which is occurring at 3 to 4 millimeters a year, and that does eventually add up, says Professor Tina Dura, which is the lead author of the study, who talked to BBC Science Focus. But here, we'll have 2 meters of sea level rise in minutes. Why aren't we talking about that more? Huh. Well, maybe because there's a lot of falsified rhetoric around all of the topics that come together. That's probably the main reason. And most people don't pay attention to this type of stuff. So they don't know what questions to ask. They don't know, how to address these things, I don't think people understand the larger scope of infrastructure issues either, because you can burn down a whole mountainside of trees, but the whole mountainside's going to have some type of subsidence problem because the roots are no longer holding up the dirt that is on that mountainside, so it would fall much easier. So anything that was on that mountainside would experience a landslide or mudslide, or I don't know the classification that it would get, but point is it would change anyways. And okay, they go on to say the Cascadia subduction zone marks the boundary where the oceanic Juan de Fuca plate is slipping beneath the North American plate. But rather than moving smoothly, these plates tend to get stuck as they lock together. Strain accumulates over centuries. When it finally releases, the result is a powerful earthquake. Cascadia is capable of producing quakes of magnitude 9 or more, with major events thought to strike every 450 to 500 years. The last one occurred in 26 January 1700, and based on geological records and contemporary reports, its magnitude was likely between 8.7 and 9.2. Well, 1700. Well, that's kind of weird. That makes me want to look that up, because when I wrote my book, I actually did research like pretty much every topic. And the choice of topics I chose to use for my book itself, um, there was a reason for that whole path that I took. And earthquakes absolutely are uh, in direct correlation with the nanotopography of our world. They even talk about this stuff. The New Atlantis. That's just saying there's a new landform somewhere. These people have been known to transfer bodies of water from one location to the next. That's not new. Water itself recycles itself. We're not like running out of water or nothing. $1,700. Just doesn't sound right. I'm gonna have to research that. All right. Getting a screenshot off my phone is like trying to pull needles out of a haystack. According to the U.S. National Seismic Hazard Model, there's now a 15% chance of a magnitude 8 or greater earthquake along the zone's margin in the next 50 years. A 2022 planning exercise by the Federal Emergency Management Agency predicted such a quake could directly cause 5,800 deaths, with a further 8,000 resulting from the tsunami. More than 100,000 people could be injured and over 618,000 buildings damaged or destroyed, including more than 2,000 schools and 100 critical facilities. The projected economic cost, $134 billion. This is going to be a very catastrophic event for the US for sure. This is going to be a very catastrophic event for the US for sure, said Dura. So people are projecting that there is an earthquake that's coming. That article was written on June 3rd, 2025 at 2:33 a.m. 100-foot mega tsunami. That's what I said the other day. Like, oh yeah, you know what? Y'all. So you know what? People have their own opinions about things, and that's fine. I'm not trying to win nobody's opinion, popular opinion or nothing. You know, I just want to do what God wants me to do. And there was a couple things he told me to do. One was he said share in real time. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what does that look like? Well, I guess this is real time. Um, that's one thing. The other thing, he's working me through something. I have been so heavily targeted. I have been traumatized in ways that I don't think people understand. The fact that I'm alive, I'm like, seriously? So, whatever God's doing, I'm here. Amen. Praise the Lord. And I'm trying to be as obedient as I possibly can. And these things are transpiring simultaneously. Plagues, there are famines and pestilence that is going to be going on. It's already going on. It's going to increase. It's going to be around you. And then there's this big earthquake. They have the equipment. I don't care what you guys say. Did they have the equipment? Okay. All right. This out of Seattle. Washington's coastal communities face a significant threat from tsunamis, with potential water heights reaching 3 stories in some areas following an offshore magnitude 9 earthquake. Like, you do not want to be on Washington coast beaches. It's summertime. This is the perfect time to be up in Washington at the beach. Perfect. What's this say? The buoys are strategically placed, transmitting a signal detected from a sensor 6,000 meters underwater. These sensors can detect a wave fluctuation of less than a centimeter. The dart buoys are heavily engineered. The cables that anchor them are resistant to shark bites, and pool the spool the cables unwind from is designed to unravel delicately upon deployment so they don't become entangled. And the latest upgrade, the buoys can now differentiate between seismic waves and tsunami waves. This is key, as the buoys have the opportunity to be relocated closer to the triggering source, the Cascadia subduction zone. That means the tsunami wave will arrive at the buoy faster, so analysis and alerts can come faster as well. That allows us to detect the tsunami in the order of 10 15 minutes earlier than the previous generation, explained Diego Arcaz, a research scientist with NOAA's Center for Tsunami Research. That extra lead time would be critical for a tsunami potentially arriving on the Washington coast in as little as 15 to 30 minutes. Wow, that's a short window of time. Huh. So basically what they're saying is if we alerted the people, most of these people wouldn't be able to get to high ground. It says, while it may be, hold on, my phone's going crazy now. While it may be a once in a lifetime event or once in several lifetimes, it has happened before, over and over. So they're going to convince us they've done this before. Coastal hazard specialist Carrie Garrison Laney has seen it right under her nose, literally. For 25 years, she has been digging into tidal marshes. Isn't it kind of funny that that number 25, 5 times 5 is 25, 5 by 5, which is a signal. Anyways, she's been digging into tidal marshes, uncovering a literal record of past tsunami activity. Oh, really? Bringing with it turbulent flow, washing sand ashore, and it normally quiet tidal marshes. One site in particular that has more tsunami deposits than anywhere else in Washington is Discovery Bay. Protected from the most frequent storm waves, Discovery Bay's tapered shape serves as a funnel that directs tsunami wave energy toward its tapered terminus, accepting sand washed ashore from the turbulent flow of the occasional tsunami. Between each layer of tsunami sand is 100 or so more years of marsh peat, which are organics that can be dated with radiocarbon. As you go down in section here, you're going back in time. Garrison Linney explained as she showed a long core of soil, pointing out the most recent tsunami generated by a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. This one's from the 1700s. Oh my gosh. The tsunami record buried in the dirt goes back thousands of years. It provides clues as to how often these mega earthquakes occur. Like, I don't even feel like I can read that because I feel like it's such a lie, and I feel wrong for believing that this person's lying. But from mud to modeling, ARCAS has been building upgrades to high resolution wave models that can pinpoint specific neighborhoods and risk levels of tsunamis. We can compute really fast and get an estimate of the inundation, wave elevation, duration of the event, number of waves, pretty accurate forecasts in a matter of a couple of minutes, he explained. ARCAS is also assessing the time dependency impact on the tsunami. Dude, listen, I got all off into that because this is what they're talking about. She missed it. Deborah Tavares missed it. And I'm saying it, and I'm going to tell it again and again. I don't care. Everybody should be talking about it. This is what the hell's going on. Freaking phone don't want to work now. Crap.
Its implementation. The potential of BioWatch remains unrealized, but simply, BioWatch is a waste of money that hinders the ability of first responders in our nation's largest cities to detect biological events before they produce illness or death in humans, animals, and plants. Now let's think about BioWatch. What do you think they mean about BioWatch, Steve? Does Palantir come to mind?
Exactly. And Palantir is definitely being stepped up by President Trump even now. So I only imagine what they're making ready for it as we speak, Deborah.
Yes, they are. And we've talked about that. We're watching the deployment of the flock surveillance system nationwide and worldwide. These are geofenced lockdowns. Make no mistake. They've already told us that transmission of bioweaponized diseases will occur in buildings, offices, schools, airplanes. We're talking about not being able to fly, travel. They don't want us to travel. We are to be in these lockdown slaughter cities that people call 15-minute cities. These are cities of death with frequencies that we cannot physically survive in. This is what it is. Everything operated by a key fob. Everything. We talked about this at length in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document. We've talked about this at length in the Secret Covenant, the Illuminati Secret Covenant.
I
For
even
those
linked
of
to
you who have not
SLT
looked at that,
Technologies.
you can type that in on stopthecrime.net and read it. You need to.
You need a
You
cell
need to
phone
understand
back.
that this discusses the illusion that will be so big and so large and so vast, it will escape our perception. And those who will see it will be thought to be insane. That's what's been set upon us. This is a declaration of war against all of us. And it says that in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document.
Yes.
So let's talk about on page 10. We understand that our recommendations are comprehensive and numerous. We know that the U.S. government will not be able to implement them all at once. But we also know that if our country adopted anything in this report, our people would be well protected from the next biological attack, accident, or naturally occurring pandemic, just as our people would have been had the United States implemented all of the recommendations from our 2015 blueprint for biodefense. And here's where the opening to my discussion started on page 10. It says, these are not just words on pages. This is a call for immediate action. We are being attacked. And on the 4th of July, now there has been some discussion because I have certainly covered what the fireworks contain. When you go and watch the fireworks, there's deadly fallout from the fireworks. I don't know if you've covered this on any programs or disclosures you've done, Steve, but over the years, I have found out what many of the ingredients are in fireworks. You shouldn't be under them. You shouldn't be breathing it. But now they could be launching a bioweaponized attack amongst the fireworks. So it has been a potential distraction. We don't know, but that certainly would make sense. And over large crowds.
Yes.
So let's talk about on page 13, briefly. They go on to talk about how they will assign responsibility to the White House and the National Economic Council for bioeconomy. They're creating a bioeconomy. We can't pay for this. We're going to be taxed, as I said earlier, to be attacked. We're already being taxed to be attacked by weather weapons. Look what they're doing to us. They're dismantling and destroying and killing and uprooting homes, families, communities, upending trees because the trees are dead and dying. I don't know what more to say about this, Steve.
Well, and making us pay for it, Deborah, as you said. They're taxing us, so put it bluntly, they attack you and then they make you pay for the attack.
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
that is exactly
That's
right.
exactly right.
These
So,
black op
just flipping through, I
operations,
know
y'all
we're
think
going to
it's
have to
funny
come
and
back
stuff.
And do some
Um,
additional
God gonna show you funny.
disclosures of this document, but I am
He already told
hoping
me. He said I
that
was gonna tell you in the face of them.
people will read this.
And
I'm
so
looking at page
comfortable saying
15,
that.
science and technology. This is what they're saying we need to do for these biodefense attacks. They talk about the Apollo program. Do you see that at the top of page 15, science and technology?
Yes.
Okay, develop vaccine candidates for prototype pathogens.
Oh.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Develop therapeutic drugs. This is all about drugging
I
us
think this is
for
about
the
to die.
attacks,
I don't.
via attacks. They say develop therapeutic drugs in advance of outbreaks, in advance of what they do to us. Develop flexible, scalable manufacturing of pharmaceuticals. Develop human-free methods of drug and vaccine.
Deborah, by the way, on that one right there, in the country of Slovakia, they were testing ways to be able to deliver the vax there that was not conventional. And it was without needles. It was not even oral. They had a way of delivering it right through the skin.
Yes, because the technology is available for them to do that. And this technology has been available for a long time. We're learning about that in the ads now, in just regular advertisement, that things can be done, they claim, to help us with medications remotely. Remotely.
Yes.
Yes, that's just normal conversation now in advertisement. They go on to say, develop minimally and non-invasive infection detection. We're talking about, as I say, mass Palantir, mass flock surveillance, mass sensors, mass cameras, because we will be not only the enemy, we will be considered infectious carriers. We will. So will our animals. So will the food supply, until we're erased.
By the way, Deborah, on that, when we're looking at ubiquitous sequencing, that is what, and they call it a future vision of DNA sequencing, which readily is available and accessible as other technologies we use daily. But this is something that they have already developed. It's not really known to the public, but they have determined one of the things that they were doing, this is why they were collecting so much data of DNA during that last round that we went through. I'm going to be cautious in my verbiage here. But the purpose for collecting that DNA was to be able to develop certain things that could genetically identify a particular DNA sequence within a race and wipe that group out completely.
That's exactly right. And also to specifically target a specific person.
Very true, very true.
So as we look at these points here, we can also see that they're going to establish a digital pathogen surveillance system. Think about that one, Steve.
Yep.
Develop a national public health data system. Everyone, I hope you're hearing this. Bolster the National Pathogen Surveillance and Forecasting Center, so they will forecast in advance. Well,
remind you of the pre-crime issue, right? Now they can forecast
That's
the pathogens.
thought crimes.
Yes. Look at how they lie to us about the weather forecasting.
Yes.
They never tell us that the clouds we see are actually man-made clouds with poisons in them.
Yeah.
They never tell us that they can move rain and liquid and water and make droughts and cause fires. Everything on the news is misinformation, disinformation, and a lie.
Yeah.
So we have to read these points on page 15 carefully. So they talk about develop the next generation of personal protective equipment. So we're going to be walking around in protective gear. Can you imagine? We're going to look like we're already on the moon. I'm dead serious about
I know, and people have no idea. I mean, if you've ever worked in a nuclear facility, we used to call it banana suits, right? You go around unless you're wearing a full body of a raincoat, the old-fashioned yellow rain jacket with the booties on, taped down, wrist taped down to the gloves, and your full face covered and everything. Yeah, that's going to be really lovely. And talk about people dropping dead from heat exhaustion. That'll cause it.
Absolutely. And we know that they are creating bioweaponized vectors. Look what we already know about the mosquitoes and the ticks. People are dying a very slow, hard death with these weaponized insects. And this is discussed in the NASA document. You can go to stopthecrime.net and you can look at the NASA document. I have done countless shows and disclosure on this document. This is all true. So they go on to say this. They're going to establish a comprehensive laboratory, biosafety, and biosecurity. You bet they are, right? Yeah. They're going to screen, just as you were saying earlier, screen DNA synthesis providers and users and purchase genetic material from verified vendors. And you can look into that more on page 8 of this document. I would highly recommend that each and every single one of you download, print this document. Spend some time reading this document. We need all hands on deck to figure out how we might be able, if we harden up in ways we have not yet considered, we might be able to survive a little bit longer in a world that is set to kill us all, including our beloved pets. So reduce pathogen transmission in built environments. So They talk about develop health-based biodefense standards for reducing pathogen transmission in built environments. We can only imagine what that's going to look like. We can only imagine, because what you're hearing me is unimaginable. Unimaginable. Facilitate defense technology transition. Address military biodefense research gaps. It's all a gap. It's all a gap, an intentional gap. Now I'm going to continue because I've talked about the use of water supplies for poisoning and furthering the pathogens. Are you hearing me okay enough, Dave?
Yes, it actually cleared up right after I mentioned it. It cleared up.
Okay, thank you. Now on page 16, I want to go over some of these points. Authorize the Office of Planetary Protection. An Office for Planetary Protection. This is a worldwide attack. Just like the flock surveillance Palantir monitoring every word you say or don't say, because they can capture the energy in your brain before you even verbally articulate your thoughts. So authorize the Office of Planetary Protection. Establish a planetary biodefense board. The world is going to suffer the unimaginable. All these innocent victims that are being slaughtered right now, we're heading into the worst slaughter of them all. Incorporate lessons learned from pandemics into regulatory processes. Think about all of this. Require a biodefense budget plan from the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The budget plan will be massive taxes. They talk about reestablish multi-year biodefense funding for the medical countermeasure procurement. And then they go on. Eliminate Office of Management and Budget review of bioshield procurements. Eliminate the review process. Warp speed, conduct no experiments. They're killing us. They don't need to experiment. Experimentation is over. Develop needle-free methods of drug and vaccine administration. We already looked at that on a prior page. I'm looking at page 16 right now. Develop flexible and scalable manufacturing of pharmaceuticals. Establish an antigen bank. Establish regional food and agriculture advanced development and manufacturing. This is everything created in a lab. Everything. Because everything will be poison. Everything. So I could go on. I will go on a bit longer, but I want to talk about some other documents as well. I don't want to overload the listeners. If they're overloaded, I can just say, well, read the information. I've only read parts of it to you and gone over parts of it. And I pieced together documents over many decades. And this is rolling out on all of us now. And the level of targeting and the severity of those that are being injured has massively increased. And now they plan on killing hundreds and hundreds of people and animals on the 4th of July. So let's continue talking and covering a few points on page 17. It's called preparedness. Strengthens stockpile supply and distribution. So you may want to look at this. You may want to think about strengthening your own stockpile and seeing what they're recommending and what you might do. You may not want to authorize provision of expiring biodefense vaccines to first responders and critical infrastructure personnel. This is B, as in boy, right under strengthen stockpile. Look at that, Steve.
Yes, yes.
With expiring biodefense vaccines to first responders and critical infrastructure personnel. Develop a strategy and implementation plan for distributing at-home diagnostic tests and therapeutics. When did we last hear that? Wasn't that starting in March of 2020 for a few years at home?
Oh, yes.
Require periodic evaluation of smallpox medical countermeasure stockpile needs in consideration of this threat. Now, I want to add something here because I was startled by this. I learned that many decades ago, how they spread rabies. This was a long time ago, decades ago in Europe. They cut off the heads of chickens. They injected them with the bioweapon, with the rabies vaccine, which is a bioweapon. And they distributed these chicken heads from planes and also from vehicles on roadways because the foxes would go and eat the chicken heads. The foxes developed rabies. They began attacking pets and biting people. This is how they started the rabies. But now they want your pets vaccinated with the rabies vaccine. Did you know about that? Had you ever heard of that?
I actually heard that before in action, but I believe it was you were discussing it on one of the previous broadcasts.
I may have. It has just absolutely floored me. All the ways in which they have cunningly deceived us and poisoned us and the animals. So I will continue now with some of the points on page 17. Authorize and bolster the National Veterinary Stockpile. Enable hiring of re-employed during the biological emergencies. Employ medical research corps and volunteers during biological emergencies. Ensure military health care and public health readiness for biological events. People don't even know about this. We're going to do this after the attacks, which are ongoing right now. Ongoing right now. Establish medical surge capacity and capacity for large-scale biological events. Nope, they're not doing it. Number 18. Defend critical infrastructure against biological threats. Manage biological risk to critical infrastructure. Now, Steve, I could go on and on. I think everyone that's heard this thus far, I hope, are moved to download this document or share this information far and wide. Understand the dilemma we are all in. All of us. Everyone, Steve. No one's exempt.
This is definitely not a very pretty picture.
No, it's not. It's a picture that is horrific to discuss, but it is on the books. It's on the books. So I just want to go over a document that I went over on a number of reveals well over a year and a half ago. But I want to bring back this document, Steve, and I think you have it, you brought it up.
ADA, Guidelines for Depopulation of Animals, correct?
That's correct. So that is an acronym. A is in apple, V is in very, M is in mother, A is in apple or animal. So, guidelines for the depopulation of animals, the 2019 edition. And they talk about the members of the panel on animal depopulation. And they name names. They have commissions based on all kinds of getting rid of animals. They have laboratory animals. They have bovine, swine, small ruminant, poultry, equine, aquatics, zoo, and wildlife. It goes on and on and on. But I will say to you this. It's available on stopthecrime.net. I wish you would download it. Would you tell folks, Steve, how to find it?
Yes, if you go to stopthecrime.net, or if you go to the description of this video, I will actually have the direct link that will take you directly to this particular article. But if you notice there, you have a search bar, and I'll show you right there on stopthecrime.net how that works. And when you go to any of the search bar, when you go to the search bar at the top, once you enter into stopthecrime.net, you will want to immediately enter into what is called press here to enter the website. Then at the top right is where you click on search. And at that point, then you can actually enter in any of these documents that we're talking about on here, such as when we're talking about the National Blueprint for Biodefense. Just type those words in on that bar there. It'll bring you to this document. Or in the case of the AVMA guidelines for the depopulation of animals, you can type that in the search bar on stopthecrime.net, and it'll bring you right to this particular document that Deborah is talking about. And as she said, it's a great idea to print it out, because one day we won't have the internet at our fingertips to be able to read something like this. So it may be better to have some of these documents already printed out for yourselves. And I will put a direct link, though, for these two different documents that we've talked about today, as well as the NASA war document. I'll also include that. So you'll have three links in the description below. And also remember, too, that on our website, right here under Creative Playlist, Deborah Tavares is the second playlist that we have loaded here. And all the videos that we do with Deborah are loaded into the playlist besides currently available at that time. And also you can see those on Deborah's website. So there we go.
Thank you, Steve. Now I'm going to go over some of this animal depopulation instructions and how to kill animals. And people need to understand they're killing animals very similarly to the way that we're being murdered as well. They are using bioweapons and diseases. They are pulling out the oxygen from the water supply and causing many of the marine life to beach themselves because there's not enough oxygen, there's too much frequency, and it's disabling their ability to navigate. So they're killing animals in many ways, such as prion, mad cow disease. Weather events are a great way that they have discovered to kill animals, because you may remember it was in May of 1949, there was a deep freeze. You can look this up in the four corners. Do you know that animals froze in place? Did you ever see that, Steve?
I don't even remember that.
Well, it was something I covered and I never forgot it because I believe it was May of 1949 and it was the deep freeze. And it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. And they were using microwave weapons. Because a man that was under the deep freeze consequences where roofs were caving in and trains of people had to let people off the trains to find houses to huddle in. This went on for some days. You can look it up.
I actually have it up on the screen already.
Okay, so you might want to tell folks a little more of what it says so that they can understand what I'm talking about.
This report here, I've not actually read into it as of yet, but it is 1949. Let me pick up a different one, Deborah, but that's where Harold E. Anthony is talking about it from the National Archaeological Database. And boy, they don't want many people seeing about this, is it?
No, they don't. But I will say,
this one here, right? Yeah, it's going down in history. The blizzards of 1949 is what they call it here. And Plains people exemplify an unusual combination of individualism, helpfulness, cooperation. Well, that just goes into more of the simple sides of these things here.
well, I want to say that one of the things I discovered when I researched that was a farmer had his guns mounted on his wall. And because of the electromagnetic frequencies, and I can't tell you why or how, but his guns were firing on the wall. He was not pulling the trigger.
You know, Deborah, that was also right about the time they did the where they were using these high frequencies to make the ship disappear.
That's right, the Philadelphia experiment.
Yes, Philadelphia experiment. They claimed that they stopped it, but they never did.
They didn't. And the cause of the San Francisco earthquake.
Yes.
Also. And many earthquakes, but I shall return to the animal depopulation because I tell you, we love our furry family members. And we will spend untold amounts of money to send them to the vets to get them RFID chipped and vaccinated to death. We will rescue animals from inhumane societies whose requirement is to chip and vaccinate. And if they pick up your lost dog or cat on the streets, they get vaccinations as if they have never been vaccinated before. Did you know that? You cannot afford to let your animals out. And should you get an animal that you want to rescue from the inhumane society, you might want to consider getting the RFID chip removed. They're usually injected in the upper right shoulder area, and they can pull them out. Now, I know someone that did get a cat, and when they had the cat's teeth cleaned, they had to put a light sedative for the cat, and they were able at the same time to pull the chip out. The chip was covered in skin, and it was about the size of a piece of long brown rice. This is a cancer site because it is a transmitter and receiver in your animals. For the convenience, if you lose them, you can track them. They are murdering your animals. So let's talk about the bioweapons and diseases for our animals. Let's talk about the prion, which I mentioned, the use of weather events to kill animals in the wild, burn animals up. We know all about that. Reducing food supplies. They're doing that by burning up the wildlands, which they call the WUI. They don't want anything in the WUI, the wildlands urban interface, not even animals. The lack of water. They're killing animals because of the lack of water. They're talking about how all of this is being done, we're being told, is the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And methane. We have to reduce methane. And there's fecal material in the water supply. And this is how many animal diseases are transmitted, including the prion disease, which is highly contagious, by the way. Animals can get it just by the fecal debris. I know that there have been many mountain lions here in the Santa Rosa, Northern California area in Sonoma County that have wandered into downtown mall areas, and they have been acting strange, and they do act strange as they are dying, and they're euthanizing them, but they're not telling the public what has happened to them. And this is happening to bear and white-tailed deer, elk. Many people are getting prion disease from hunting. You have to be careful what animals you harvest and eat. Now, I read some documents, Steve, about creating such a fear about the vectors in animals, which they cause, to where people will want to transition to robotic animals. You know, the cute little wind-up
Yes.
dogs and cats that move along?
Yes.
This is what people will want. They're going to become so fearful, and this is going to be presented as an alternative to getting rid of your pet. Now, there's also some of these articles. I'll read the tops of these articles. They talk about insurance for animal liability for acceptable animals. So you can get insurance for an acceptable animal. I'm not going to go into the details of that. I have all the backup on this. Animals are being destroyed also because of the weaponized street lights. The wildlife corridors are highly monitored with wireless cameras so that we can watch the wildlife at night while we're killing them with wireless frequencies and brain-eating bioweapons.
Wow.
So we need to understand what we're doing to kill off the wildlife and what is being done with the idea that we're protecting the animals. We're not. So I've written an article. I believe it's probably posted on email blast outs on stopthecrime.net when I was still able to be online. I have many blast outs that I would recommend. They're articles that I've written about documents and information. Also, chronic wasting disease detected in new meadows of mule deer.
Yes, I remember that one.
Yes, so we can go on and on. Fish and game officials are asking hunters that harvest deer or elk to have the animals tested for chronic wasting disease. Now, I know of a store owner here in Northern California. He had an audio store, a high-end audio store. And all of a sudden, there were signs across his storefront saying immediate elimination of all merchandise. And he had all kinds of things. He had fully refurbished Model A cars. They were beautiful, beautiful, selling for next to nothing. And I found out he was dying of wasting disease. It was eating his brain.
Oh, wow.
Because he was a hunter. He was a hunter. They have, it's called also the zombie deer disease. And it was, initially detected in Idaho. And I've talked to many people that have this wasting disease. It's a horrific way in which to die. It's violent. So, yes, we have the plan.
Deborah, in the document itself, it's a very interesting choice of word, but it makes you think of how the wasting disease got in the atmosphere to begin with, because when they're promoting humane destruction of the species of animals addressed in the document, mechanical and physical methods, electric methods, and controlled atmosphere and gas methods. Now, because they put the word gas methods after that atmosphere, we assume that they're talking about, inside a contained area where they're controlling the atmosphere there. But maybe it's a subliminal message there to let you know that they're controlling the atmosphere itself and being able to get rid of some of these species of animals.
Well, they are talking about weather events. And we know that the weather events are controlled.
Yeah.
They own the weather. They own it. So for all of you that are just now discovering that maybe there might be some weaponized weather events or some cloud seeding. Oh, no, no, no. They own it. Patents on all
Yes.
weather events, on it all. You are under mass attack. Absolutely mass attack. Now I want to go into something else.
Okay.
Because I think we have to start tying this together a bit, and then I'll look forward to getting more information out on this because I have much more to cover, Steve. But I think I want to go over this. This is important. This is out of Berkeley, California. We're talking about the university, Berkeley University.
Yes.
They are set up also to spread disinformation. I'm trying to be nice about this. I would rather use far more harsh words, but it's disinformation. So let me get into this. A few years ago, when Rosalind Peterson was still alive here, about an hour and a half north of where we are, she ran a website called Agriculture Defense Coalition. Now, Rosalind was a USDA loss crop claims adjuster. And when crops were dying, she went to the lab and could not figure out what was happening until she discovered to her horror about the control of the weather and what they were spraying. And after she researched that on her own dime, she flew to New York, to the United Nations, and spoke. You can listen to Rosalind speak at the UN. You can type it in. You can see Rosalind talk about, please stop the spraying program. All the plants, the shrubs, the trees are being decimated. So I don't know if you can find that easily, Steve, but Rosalind was murdered of fast-acting cancer. And in tribute to her, because it was because of the information I received from her early on, that we went on field trips, and she showed us how the aerosolized military jets sprayed all over Mendocino County, and how they morphed it into the weather that then became, we were witnessing overhead. And we would talk almost daily to discuss what she was seeing there. Notice how it's changing as they move it over us. So let me get into this. Rosalind gave us information, a stack of documents to give to Berkeley, because Berkeley was misrepresenting. Lying is a good word. Deceitful, destructive, other words fit, but I'll use deceitful. Berkeley was talking about the SOD program. SOD means sudden oak death. Now, here's what happened. Representatives from Berkeley came to Northern California to tell us that they needed to conscript citizen scientists to walk around neighborhoods with binoculars and cell phones. And if they spotted a laurel bush under an oak tree, to take a photograph, the address of the house, and send it to Berkeley so that they could put that house and address on a site where it was contaminated. And they were saying that in those contamination zones, cars needed to wipe their wheels off, their tires off, people needed to wipe their shoes off, and they needed to sanitize all cutting material, and they should not remove cut material to landfills because of the spread of fungus. They called it a fungus that was initiated by the laurel trees, that came from the laurel trees and spread onto the oak trees. And the California bay laurels were the identified host of this fungus. So they were going to conscript and did, and we're getting people reporting on their neighbors and sending in photographs so Berkeley could complete this map showing all the contaminated areas. So today, I heard this woman from Berkeley talk about the most current findings from Sudden Oak Death.net. So I want to tell you about this and what this is going to result in. You can look this up. I heard from this woman named Carrie Winiger, WININGER at UCANR.edu. That's her email address. She is the Sudden Oak Death Coordinator and misrepresentation of what is the cause of the trees dying. It's the aerosol spraying overhead. It is not the laurel and the fungus. It's the fungus and mildew that's being caused in the atmosphere. So here's now what's added to the list of hosts for this fungus. Not only now have they said it was the California bay laurels, the English bay laurels, but now all rhododendrons, Steve, all camellias, all lilacs, and the worst of them all is the tan oak trees, because it says they self-infect by getting in, the fungus gets into the trunks, and once infected in the bark, it's the end of the life of the tan oak tree. They die. We have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of standing dead tan oak. And we have hundreds of thousands of standing dead conifers from what they have done to the atmosphere with heavy metals. We now know that at least at 6 inches in depth, the soil is so contaminated with heavy metals that our trees and shrubs cannot uptake any atmospheric toxic rain that we're delivered. It's chemical rain, but they can't uptake the water. They're dying. It's like plaque in arteries. They can't uptake water. In fact, there was a graduation event at Diablo State University just a couple weeks ago, and this would be in Central California. You can look it up. Diablo State University graduation. Graduation participants were sitting in the stands, and many were standing under a tree. There was no wind, and the tree toppled over onto a number of people. They're falling. They are weapons. You must massively reduce the wind that can blow your trees over, because they are now weapons. Just like the dams and reservoirs are weapons. Just like the EV lithium-ion batteries are bombs on wheels. They explode. So let me get back into the laurels, because here's what we're going to see. Back at the time, Berkeley told us that they had a vaccine-type spray called AgroFos, and that you could spray that on your oak trees. Now, there were hundreds of people that met at these meetings, because many people have these gorgeous oak trees that they designed houses around, Steve. They were centerpieces in the center of driveways, and they were collapsing of sudden oak death. When they were buying this material from Berkeley that didn't work, and they were spraying this AgroFos on the trees, on the oak trees. But now look what they've included, not only the California bay laurels, the English laurels, but all rhododendrons, camellias, lilacs, and now tan oaks. They're defoliating us. Why are they defoliating them? Falls into the same thing as the sustainable development requirements. And it's eliminating and reducing our oxygen supply. Now we know about that, right, Steve?
Yes, very much so.
Yes. So here's what we have. We have what is now being told to us. Sonoma County has more sudden oak death than any other county in California, except for Marin, which is a very affluent area just north of the Golden Gate, and that is where our governor lived, with his blue roof and his neighbor that has a white roof, because they know that blue and white reflect the blue of the weapons used during the fires. We showed that in a program, right?
Yes, yes, we did. And that is on our playlist that people can go back and actually see, one of the first ones.
So here's what we have in store. The U.S. Forestry Department is having funding reduced, and they have been involved in the campaign to lie about sudden oak death. This is the U.S. Forestry Department. And they say they discovered sudden oak death. It started in the mid-'80s, but it wasn't really recognized until early 2000s. And it's a pathogen. Well, what was very heavy that started in the 80s? It was the overhead aerosolized death dumps.
Yes.
That's when it became heavy, 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 heavy over us here. And before that, before people noticed. But here's what's going to happen. We're being identified as areas of spreadable pathogens. They said, she said, that this is going to be nationwide. It just hasn't spread nationwide. But it's all there and ready to spread because there's chemtrailing over all of us. So they're going to start shutting areas down as contamination zones because of plant material and not letting us go out of contaminated areas. This is lockdowns due to plants. So we've got a bioweaponized attack against humans, against animals, and against all plants and everything else.
It is a disaster, and I have on the screen for people too an article that I found talking about sudden oak death in all the different counties that were affected in California. And they're dating this, of course, the article is not from 1994, but talking about it from 1994 on. And they said 127 host species of this fungi has now been identified. Wonder how that happened, right?
Well, we know that Berkeley is spreading disinformation,
No.
that is not how this is spread. Rosalind sent them packets of factual information from her lab results, remembering that she was and worked for the U.S. Ag Department. They would not listen to her. In fact, when we went to some of these Berkeley meetings, they wouldn't even call on us because they knew that we were going to give the truth to the people, the hundreds of people that were sitting there. So we were spreading out flyers, letting people know it was actually from cloud seeding. We didn't want to use the heavy words.
Well, this is exactly what Harold Coxvilla, when he did the study in
The beers
Germany,
didn't
when they
demand your
were,
faces to be seen.
asked
I
him
would have had to.
conduct a study, and he determined that the botany life was dying as a result of chemtrailing.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
So the bioweapon attacks have been ongoing, relentless, and
They
increasing.
can't pay for it. The
And we
physics
must
and quantum
all,
computing and all that.
Steve, we must all think about the ways in which we can attempt to survive
Yep.
under these ruthless, deadly attacks, because we're being run by people that are heartless. It's beyond greed. It's heartless. It's absolutely heartless. And many of these groups, in fact, there have been many discussions as of late about Silicon Valley being a CIA-funded operation. Of course it is. It is a horrific location. And I guess I want to wrap up the show pretty quickly, but I want to talk about, if I can get to it. Let me see if I can get to it. It's a woman that I reported on. Let me get you her name. As I'm hunting for her name, I want to explain what this was about. A number of years ago, this woman who had a tech business and had about 80 employees was doing very well. She went to Silicon Valley for a meeting, and she was frantically sending emails and texts to her family and her husband. I believe that she lived in Idaho or Colorado, somewhere like that. And she was distraught. And she was on her way to the airport after typing these frantic messages and sending these messages to her family. And she never boarded the plane. She was found a week later dead in San Jose, which is the bedroom community around Silicon Valley. And I covered her story, and I received some thanks from her family because her murder was never solved. And I'm trying to find her name. Maybe you can type it in while I'm searching.
Okay.
I can't easily find it. But she was talking about the end is here. It's over. And she was frantic and panicked, text information to her family. And then she was murdered, never to get on the airplane. Hang on, I'm still trying to find her name. We can't let this woman die in vain for discovering what she was not allowed to explain to anybody. And when I covered her story, again, as I say, it was horrific. And let me just find her name. Oh my.
Was it 1981?
I don't think it was that long ago, no.
Okay.
I think it was in the, I think it must have been maybe the late 90s, maybe even the early 2000s.
Why don't I know who you're talking about?
But here it is. Erin, she's a woman. Erin, E-R-I-N, Valenti, V-A-L-E-N-T-I. She figured it out. And she said we are in a matrix of hell and we're suffering. And they pulled it off.
Oh, yes. You know, I actually did a story on her myself one time.
So if you can pull up her story, people need to know how many people before us were trying to warn. So please, as we end this discussion of these documents on the reveal tonight, Steve, we stand on the shoulders of people before us
together,
that did their level best to try to warn us.
I don't know them.
But it was too big. It was an illusion so large and so vast that it escaped our perception. And I would recommend everyone read Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars and The Secret Illuminati Covenant. Free downloads from stopthecrime.net. And when we do our next reveal, I'm going to go over more of what is happening locally with the water supply and the reduction of water. And the fact that the local water agency, I might as well get this out now so people can remember. Sonoma Water here in Sonoma County knows about primary water. Paul Power, whom you know, Steve, PAL Power, T-A-U-E-R, now deceased, was the Hungarian water wizard. Paul drilled primary water wells. He drilled a number of primary water wells for Sonoma Water in Sonoma County. Please don't forget that. He told us where he drilled. We know where those wells are. And right now, as we speak, they are installing massive pumps and lines to transmit and sell that water to counties south of us and not tell the people here that they are tapped in to primary water, which is a renewable water.
I think my hair is
And we
stopping.
run primarywater.org, the website primarywater.org. And then when you go on to stopthecrime.net
Oh, yeah.
and you go back into
Wow.
the videos that I've posted, they stack on top of one another. You're
That's
going
not
to
good.
want to search for the many with Paul Power, Deborah Tavares and Paul P-A-L Power, P-A-U-E-R. Please understand, the out of water. We're running out of the truth. And the truth is deadly. The truth is deadly in the sense that the truth has been reinvented. So with that, Steve, I think that we should wrap it up and we can resume some deeper dives into this information. And we'll tie it in to the NASA War document and into some other documents and into the water privatization that has occurred throughout the United States and throughout the world. And they're reducing our oxygen supply. And we'll go over a document I have on all of that too. So Steve, I want to thank you.
I don't know if y'all remember, but Steve, his they about took him out. He knew they got him with something biological. His wife got real sick. She had to have some docs come in and help her make it out. They had to have special docs come in. So, anyway, I don't know what I'm hearing.